For example, they tell me that I can't prove the existence of God, which is correct. I can't prove the existence of God. But the reality is I can't prove anything except perhaps self-existence. Like I can say, to quote Rene Descartes, I think, therefore I am. So I can prove that I exist. But beyond that, I technically can't prove anything. Like I can't even prove that Paul exists. I can make arguments that Paul exists. I observe him, I see him, I hear him. Those are all evidences that Paul exists. But my mind could be deceiving me. My mind could be giving me false impressions or false signals. And I can't prove that it isn't. But I can make a reasonable case based on evidence that Paul exists. I don't argue that God exists because I can prove that God exists. I argue that God exists because he's the most plausible explanation of how things came into existence. I can look at, there's two possibilities. The universe is eternal or the universe has a beginning. Well, if the universe is eternal, it would be impossible to get to this point in time because it would be impossible to get here from a point that is eternally back in history. So the idea of the universe being eternal is not a plausible explanation, so the universe has to have a beginning. And if the universe has a beginning, there's possibilities within that. We talk about the Big Bang. At one time, they say there was a singularity, which everything is kind of condensed down into this infinitely dense point. But even that's not really plausible because you have the same problem with that you have looking back eternity in time. You can never actually reach an infinitely dense point because it's infinitely dense. So however dense you get, you can always get denser. So that's not really a plausible explanation either. So the universe has to have a beginning. If the universe has a beginning, let's say we could go back to the point of the Big Bang. Somebody can say, well, the Big Bang is not the beginning. There was something before that. Okay, maybe there was. That's certainly plausible. But then how far back do you go with that? Maybe there was something before that and before that and before that. At some point, you have to get back to that first cause, which the only plausible explanation of what that first cause is God. None of the other explanations are plausible. Yeah, I acknowledge I can't prove the existence of God. I argue that God is the only plausible explanation of how things came into existence.
There is a motivational speaker, he calls himself the $500 billion man. He's very rough. I like listening to him. Actually, there's a time I could watch his videos for the whole night. He's called Dan Pena. So he's tough. You should watch him.
Okay, I've never heard of him, so I need to check this.
He's very rough. But he says he has this argument about charity. So he says he's bragged. So for us, the rich people, the billionaires, what we do is that after all the time I've stolen all your money, I've stolen this. Basically, he says that what they do is they steal your money because you're stupid. Anyway, that's how they get rich. But anyway, the whole point is they know how business works and they're able to make money at your cost. You fail to make it and they get it. But anyway, so he says we take all the money, but then at the end when I'm probably 70, 75, I know, okay, I'm in the evening of my life. And when I'm in the evening of my life, basically he's talking about that emptiness. Okay, basically anytime I will die and I don't know what next. So he says he kind of buys into Pascal's argument. He says, he's not a billionaire, but I searched, but then he calls himself a $500 billion guy because he has mentored millionaires and billionaires so he says the value of what he has mentored is worth 500 billion. So he says what these rich people do when they're older and they're about to die, they're like, okay, I don't believe in God, but if at all there is a God, they get back down to where Pascal was. Like, if there is a God, I'm going to fund charity, let's say for refugees from Rwanda or from Congo, and I'm going to give them millions of dollars, take care of them, feed them, provide for them. So just in case there's a God, when I go back, he knows that, okay, I helped his people. I did something good. I was charitable. So in the end, what this arrogant man is very arrogant, he's still saying there's a God